Hi, my name's Mike Nash. I'm the author of Aggressive Health and the creator of the Anti-Aging Health Matrix. And welcome back to video number 2 in this 4-part free training series. Now, in the last video, I walked you through the top 10 killers in today's society. Okay, the question is, why did I do this? So let's recap. Because if you have a passion like me for putting the brakes on the aging process, and also a passion for marching towards your 100th birthday, free from those diseases that can steal your life prematurely, then you better make sure, okay, that you've got a strategy to avoid each of them. Why? Because the ones at the top of the list are killing 1 in 2 people, namely heart disease and cancer. You know, in fact, right now I'm going to ask you the question, what is your strategy to avoid heart disease? Have you even given it any thought? Okay, another question, what is your strategy to avoid cancer, the number 2 killer? Here's the thing. I could ask you the same question for everything on that top 10 list right now, and obviously hopefully you don't need a strategy to avoid suicide, but who knows? You know, it's on the top 10 list, and right now you may be suffering with some form of depression and want to bring balance and harmony back to your brain and back to your body. Here's the point. If the answers to those questions I just asked you are not on the tip of your tongue, then let me tell you this, you really don't have a strategy, okay? So if that's the case and you haven't watched video number 1 yet, stop this video right now, go back to that video first, and just remember this. This particular 4-part training, it builds upon itself until we reach the crescendo in video number 4. Okay, so click the link below for video number 1 if you need to. Here's the thing, you may think diseases like heart disease and cancer are hereditary, or it's just bad luck if you happen to be struck down mysteriously. But you know what, if that was really the case, okay, then look at the rates of cancer and heart disease over 100 years ago. If you really look into it, you're going to see that they were virtually unheard of. So if you're anything like me, you're going to want at least some basic strategies in place to help, you know, that make sense and that help you avoid these. The tough part, and this is the real key here, the tough part is weaving them all into a day-to-day routine. But listen, that's where I come in, because I've spent 20 years focusing on these subjects, and as I've said before, I'd rather die in my sleep at peace than be ravaged by one of these top 10 killers. And remember, the ones at the top, okay, they're not killing 1 in 100 or 1 in 1,000, they're killing 1 in 2. So whether it's weight loss that you want, or better skin, or more lustrous hair, or better eyesight, you know, a strong athletic body, strong bones, mobility, flexibility, you know, these are all great goals, but what we're really talking about here is staying younger for longer, or as young as possible for as long as possible. And that's the true essence of the Anti-Aging Health Matrix. So in video number 1, I told you what the Anti-Aging Health Matrix was. You know, it's a 3-tiered system. And I want you to think of it like this. You know, you've got the priority principles at the top in tier number 1. Okay? Then in tier number 2, you've got the next most important principles. And finally, in tier number 3, you've got the final group of principles. Okay? So let's start at tier number 1. This here is where the magic really begins. And there are 7 key principles that make up this tier. And we're going to talk about them right now. As I've said before, part of the motivation of the Anti-Aging Health Matrix is to avoid the top 10 killers listed in the previous video. Okay? Now, if you think about it, these are what I like to call the slow killers. Yeah? You don't just eat the wrong food once, or drink 1 alcoholic beverage, and then fur up your arteries and get heart disease. Okay? Heart disease is created over time. You see? Hence the, you know, the term slow killers. You don't just smoke 1 cigarette and get cancer. It happens over time. In fact, most children, teenagers, and those in their 20s, 30s and 40s, etc., they remain free from cancer, and in most cases it appears to be something that affects the older populations, therefore another slow killer. Respiratory diseases, okay, they don't tend to happen overnight, but may catch up with you if you're not consistently breathing, you know, may catch up with you if you're consistently breathing in toxins from the environment and you don't look after your lungs and you don't understand a few other little, you know, key principles. Then number 4, Alzheimer's, you know, and other forms of dementia. They usually start many years before the disease is actually diagnosed. And then number 5, diabetes. Well, that used to be called adult onset diabetes, but is now showing up in children and teenagers, you know, but nonetheless doesn't happen overnight. You don't just get it after eating 1 sugary chocolate bar or 1 cake or pastry rich in trans fatty acids and highly processed hydrogenated fats. So hopefully you're getting my point. So here's the thing. If the top 10 killers are the slow killers, then what are the fast killers? Well, the fast killers, and the answer to this question, is where the anti-aging health matrix really takes off, and where we finally get into the principles, you know, in this top tier, tier number 1. So let's begin. To find out what principle number 1 is, I want to ask you the following question. You know, other than shoot someone in the head or attack them with a deadly implement, what is the fastest way to kill someone? Think about that. The answer? Cut off their oxygen supply. A person can only survive a few minutes without oxygen, okay? So the number 1 principle in tier number 1 of the anti-aging health matrix is oxygen-based strategies, oxygen-based therapies, and oxygen-based technologies. So the next question is, what are they? And more importantly, why are they so important? Now, first of all, they encompass a large list, all right, of protocols from what I call low-tech solutions, okay, that anyone can start to use right now from the, you know, the comfort of their own home, to medium-tech solutions where you may have to, you know, spend some money and buy some technology, but you can still use them at home, through to what I call high-tech solutions, where you need to find a specific practitioner who could treat you, you know, at their clinic. So how you choose what to do next, okay, and this is the important thing, will depend on your current level of health. So if you're young and virile with no health concerns, maybe you're in your 20s, you know, basically you can begin to master the low-tech solutions, and maybe, yeah, for health insurance you can take advantage of the medium-tech solutions. Okay, if you're almost 40, like I am, you may want to actively be engaged in, you know, many of the low-tech solutions and the medium-tech solutions, and then use the high-tech solutions from time to time as extra insurance. Now, if you've lived a longer life and you're in your 50s or your 60s, your 70s, your 80s, or beyond, you may want to begin with the, you know, begin with the low-tech solutions and use the medium-tech solutions as well, and then strategically implement the high-tech solutions more often, okay, to give yourself that best chance of avoiding disease. So again, what are these low-tech, medium-tech, and then high-tech solutions? Well, fear not, we're going to get to those in a minute. First, we need to look at why oxygen-based strategies are in position number 1, you know, of the anti-aging health matrix. Now, we've already said, okay, that without oxygen, you're dead within minutes. Okay, and then secondly, from an energy producing point of view, oxygen is more important than food. Okay, you know, go and ask 10 people where does the body get energy from, and most people will say food. You know. And yes, they're right, but it's not the, you know, it's not the primary place. Your number 1 source is oxygen. Okay, and as a person ages, their ability to extract oxygen out of the environment or out of the atmosphere declines, and we don't want this. Okay, what we do want is to maintain our oxygen extracting ability and to enhance it. So from the point of view of avoiding the top 10 killers, we need to maintain oxygen-rich blood to avoid heart attacks and strokes. Okay, this is one thing, you know, this is one thing we can do, but there is definitely a whole lot more. You know, and then from the point of view of cancer, consider this. Excuse me. Dr. Otto Warburg was awarded 2 Nobel Prizes, you know, for his lifelong research showing that cancer is caused by damaged cell respiration due to a lack of oxygen at a cellular level. Now, this malfunction of cell respiration can lead to both fermentation and low pH. Okay, the perfect environment for the growth of anaerobic microorganisms, bacteria, viruses and parasites. However, if oxygen levels are maintained and the body is essentially flooded with oxygen, then these anaerobic based organisms can't get a foothold in the body. Okay? And then finally, for the purposes of this video, if the body is flooded with oxygen, then our ability to eliminate harmful toxins is enhanced dramatically. Now, we talk about this more, you know, in more depth inside the course, but I wanted you to at least get a good overview of the importance. So let's get back to the low-tech, the medium-tech and the high-tech solutions. Let's start with the high-tech solutions first, and then we'll work our way backwards. Okay? High-tech solutions involve oxygen-based therapies such as ozone therapy. Now, there are many different kinds, but all are built around one simple premise. Okay? Your immune system runs on oxygen. Okay? And most disease-causing bacteria and viruses which are positively charged, they can't survive when your body is flooded with active forms of negatively charged oxygen. In fact, the T cells, okay, the T cells of your immune system produce ozone, which by the way is an activated form of oxygen, which is why your body accepts and recognises ozone and these ozone therapies as safe and effective. So when your body is flooded with these active forms, and that's the key here, these active forms of negatively charged oxygen via therapeutic interventions, you know, as we've said before, amazing self-regulatory processes are enhanced and therefore in many cases restored. So what do I mean by self-regulatory processes? Well, think about this. If you cut your finger, it heals, right? You don't have to stare at it, you know, you don't have to kind of wish it to heal. Your body has amazing intelligence. Now the problem is when we do things that stress this intelligence, like we ingest toxins, okay, we take drugs, we eat highly processed non-foods, we fill our body with alcohol and we fail to give our body what it really needs. Okay, it's almost like we block our own intelligence. Imagine, for example, being shot. Okay, not a nice image, I know, but imagine having a bullet stuck in your arm. Well, if you leave the bullet in there, then infection can set in and, you know, you can have a real problem on your hands, right? However, if the bullet is removed, then it gives the body the chance to heal. In the same way, if you remove the toxicity, or remove the parasite, or remove the virus, or remove the bacteria, then you set the stage for your body to use its own intelligence to self-heal and, as I mentioned earlier, self-regulate. Another way to think about this is like this. Active forms of oxygen that are produced inside the body oxidize, okay, that is break down, disease-causing bacteria, disease-causing viruses and disease-causing toxins. Then once broken down, the mess that is left is combined with oxygen and leaves the body via, you know, via the elimination pathways, your sweat, your urine, your stools, your spit, your mucus, your skin, etc. Okay? Now, here's the thing, does this all sound a bit too simple? Well, my next question is, have you really done your research? And don't worry if you haven't, because, you know, as well as walking you through all the basics, I'll be giving you all the places to go and do further research if you're a practitioner who is interested in delving deeper into the science. So as you can see, oxygen is needed every step of the way to give you energy, okay, to stave off anaerobic based unwanted guests in your body and to help keep toxin elimination efficient. Here's another thing to consider. You know, you've only got to read books like Detoxify or Die by Dr. Sherry Rogers and you'll begin to see that the world is a toxic minefield. Yes, the body naturally detoxifies, you know, these chemicals and it's doing it all day long, you know, every single day of our lives. But the problem is that many of the man-made chemicals are difficult for the body to eliminate and they tend to stockpile. Okay, remember that word. They stockpile day after day, month after month, year after year, decade after decade. And if this happens, okay, and someone isn't looking after their health and their oxygen levels begin to drop, and their oxygen efficiency is poor, then they set up an environment for positively charged anaerobic bacteria and viruses to proliferate and gradually create a more anaerobic environment in the body. So ozone-based therapies in the high-tech kind of section are an example of one of the many high-tech solutions that can create, you know, fantastic results. But what about the medium-tech solutions? Well, again, there is technology that you can purchase and use at home to increase your level of activated oxygen in your system, as well as inexpensive supplements that you can use and put into your water to increase the oxygenation of the water and thus have that oxygen delivered to your cells. Then you've got the low-tech solutions, which you really need to pay attention to if you're in a position to do so. These solutions are learning how to breathe effectively so you use the full capacity of your lungs. And I'll teach you a great method that I use inside the course, which involves visualising that you're breathing into a tube that starts between your ankles, okay, and then fills up between your knees, then up into your belly, and then up into your mid-ribs, and then up into your upper ribs, and then is reversed all the way back down to your ankles. But more importantly, how to combine this practice with other health practices that I'll be talking about later. And you can even use it when you're running or rebounding, which again are other great low-tech solutions to maintain your ability to transfer oxygen around your system. Now, before we move on to point number 2 though, I want to be very clear at how powerful some of the high-tech, you know, solutions really are, and how powerful activated forms of oxygen, such as ozone, can be to bring harmony back to even the most diseased bodies. So you remember the Queen Mother, right? Who lived to be 101 years of age. You know, we keep talking about marching towards your 100th birthday. Well, here's someone that did it. And the thing is that she used ozone-based therapies, and inside the course we'll get into more detail about other people who use them, you know, successfully, but also why they aren't part of typical mainstream medicine, which, as you may know, is kind of really heavily influenced by the pharmaceutical cartels, etc. Now, if you don't engage in at least one or two of the oxygen-based strategies, you're going to end up like the vast majority of people living in a low oxygen, acidic environment with lots of positively charged anaerobic organisms in your body, such as parasites, viruses, bacteria and toxins, as your health gradually deteriorates. Which basically leads us to, guess where? Back to the top 10 killers. However, if you're smart, okay, and you take advantage of these low, medium and high-tech solutions that I'm going to cover in detail inside the course, then you're going to end up living in a sufficiently oxygenated aerobic environment with lots of negatively charged active oxygen molecules and negatively charged electrons that can rip apart and destroy parasites, viruses and other toxins, which have been proven to have a link to many, if not all, forms of disease. So in the Anti-Aging Health Matrix, we go into detail and discuss everything that you can do, but more importantly, how you can build a simple action plan. Because as I've said before, and I'll say it again, ultimately it comes down to what you do, day by day. Now for principle number 2. And again, the easiest way to remember this is to ask the following question. What is the second fastest way to kill someone? And the answer? Take away their water supply and dehydrate them. So principle number 2 in the top tier of the Anti-Aging Health Matrix is hydration-based strategies and technologies, and the avoidance of dehydrating foods, and the avoidance of dehydrating beverages, and the avoidance of toxin-laden food, and the avoidance of toxin-laden beverages, which all impact hydration and overall health. Okay, so again, to really appreciate the impact of what we're talking about here, without dismissing it, we need to really look at why hydration is number 2 and why it is so vitally important. Now, other than the fact that we can only survive a few weeks without water, which by the way should be enough of a big enough reason or big enough motivation in itself, there are other reasons as well. For example, high blood pressure. Yes, it can be due to many other factors, but one is chronic dehydration. Remember, thousands of chemical reactions are dependent on water in the body, and even a minor dip and the efficiency of the body drops. Now, water and salt balance in the body can have a dramatic effect on respiratory function. Get it right and your chances of avoiding asthma and other allergies associated with increased histamine production, they increase. Get it wrong and you can spend a lifetime suffering. Your digestion and your digestive efficiency is massively affected by your hydration level. So if you have any issues with poor digestion, acid reflux, constipation, and many other kind of digestive based issues, resolving your hydration issues along with other principles in the Anti-Aging Health Matrix will go a long way to help you. Now, prolonged dehydration causes brain cells to shrink, and remember that Alzheimer's is number 6 on the top 10 killers list, so it makes sense to take this area seriously. Even the neurochemicals associated with memory and thought are dependent on optimal levels of hydration in the body. Hydration is vital for the joints, okay, for the discs and fluid between the joints, and you've only got to look at some of the elderly who've got poor joints who have shrunk because they've got dehydrated discs between their vertebrae. Now, it's certainly not something that I'm wishing for myself, and obviously there's more things that can be done for your joints, but it starts with hydration. Ultimately, even a 2% drop in hydration can massively affect performance. A 10% drop and you are asking for serious multiple health problems. Now, I could go on, and inside the course we do go into more detail, so you really understand the importance of this even more. And more importantly, we look at all the strategies of what you can do daily. Okay, now this all adds up to one simple conclusion. Dehydration is a major cause of disease. And you don't have to be a genius to see that dehydration is rampant in today's society. And the answer, by the way, isn't just turn on the tap and drink more water, and we're going to see why in a second. The problem runs much deeper than that. First, you need to be aware of the many dehydrators in today's society, the foods, okay, the beverages. And you've got to look at the best hydrating strategies, and really, you need to focus on those exclusively. Now, I mentioned toxicity when discussing oxygen and oxygen-based strategies, but we also look at it here because of how easy it is for toxicity to get into your water, and get into your water supply. Remember, if you've got a body that is rich in in activated oxygen, you don't want it all being, all that activated oxygen being used up, eliminating the toxicity that you could have avoided through better choices of foods and liquids. Now, ultimately, you want your immune system using the activated oxygen, for defense against foreign invaders, but we kind of touched on that before. So the question is, how bad is toxicity in regular municipal water and water from plastic bottles? Now, all you've got to do is look below this video and you're going to see a number of links, okay? You're going to see a link in the BBC News where Prozac found in drinking water. Okay, then you're going to see a link to the New York Times tap water, unhealthy. And then you're going to see a link, you know, Daily Mail, are you still drinking water from plastic bottles? Now to me this is old news, but if you skip this part and miss this part, it means that from a hydrating perspective, you know, you have a massive weak link in the chain that I call health. Okay? And if you have a weak link in any of the principles in tier number 1 of the anti-aging health matrix, let me tell you, it's going to find you out one way or another. If, however, you follow along with everything inside the course and build some simple day-to-day strategies into your routine, then you'll be able to eliminate toxicity from your municipal water supply. You'll be able to oxygenate the water. You'll be able to reduce the surface tension of your water and therefore increase the hydration potential at a cellular level, all the while building the key understandings necessary to avoid the health-robbing toxicity as much as is humanly possible. Now, there are certain foods and supplements that can increase the level of hydration because of the positive effect that they have on your body at a cellular level, and we'll be discussing those as well. But as I've said, there is also a unique marriage between the principles of hydration and the principles of active oxygen, you know, from principle number 1. So if you get this right, when it all comes together, you're going to see how powerful this is. And this is just principle number 1 and 2. For now, if you want a quick tip, okay, and you can at least guarantee, and if you can guarantee you're getting good quality water, make sure you drink some water as soon as you wake up in the morning, and make sure you drink water between meals, okay, not with your meals, as you don't want to dilute your digestive juices. Now, we discuss a strategy based on how much water to drink inside the course, and also discuss the importance of salt, especially the right kind of salt, because there is an intricate marriage between water and salt, and the balance really is key. In fact, the balance is everything. So the question is, can you drink too much water? Of course you can. But a bigger problem initially is people drinking too little and engaging in day-to-day habits that detract from hydration. Now, we're going to reverse that and make sure that you understand the importance of salt so your health is in complete balance. Get this right and you've got a lot to look forward to. You've got great energy levels, clear skin, beautiful hair, strong nails, clear eyes, mobile joints, harmonious digestion, and a perfect health foundation on which to secure all these benefits and build a stronger, more resilient body. Get this wrong and you could end up with chronic fatigue, saggy skin, lustless hair, a weak body, poor digestion and irregular bowel movements, and also asthma, allergies and poor immunity. The list goes on. Okay, next. Let's get back to the fast killers. All right, we've killed someone by taking away their oxygen supply. Then we've discussed the importance of applying a number of oxygen-based strategies to enhance health. Next, we've taken away someone's water supply, causing them to dehydrate, and we've discussed the relationship between getting good quality water, removing toxins, reducing the surface tension of the water, and increasing the oxygen content of the water. Next, we're going to take away food. Yeah? If someone isn't given food, essentially it's only a matter of time before they starve to death. So point number 3 may be the most confusing factor of all for many people, okay? But it's quite obvious, nutrition and food. And although I've got, obviously I've got loads to say on this subject, we're going to come back to this at the end of the presentation, so stay tuned. So let's jump over to principle number 4. On page 170 of Aggressive Health, I write the following. Any horse vet will tell you if you want to kill a horse, keep it locked up in a stable. Most vets know that if you let it out and let it run around, it will probably get better. The fastest way to kill a senior citizen is to do the same. Trap them in a room or a home where movement is limited. Now hold that information in your head for a moment and consider this. Think what happens to a person's limb if they break it. Okay, say someone broke their arm and it's set in a plaster cast. What happens, what happens to the muscles whilst the person can't use that limb? Yeah, the muscles atrophy, right? They don't atrophy from anywhere else, but they atrophy in the area where there isn't any usage. Now think of what happens to the playing arm of a tennis player. Did you know the density and the strength of the bone is much stronger in the playing arm than the non-playing arm? Now all of these examples lead to an obvious conclusion, okay? Less movement is bad, more movement is good. But there's also another component as well, and that is how you move, okay? But we're going to come back to that in a moment. One thing is for sure here. Notice I didn't say exercise, okay? I want you to make a very important distinction here. Yes, exercise is movement, and I'm not discouraging exercise. In fact, doing cardiovascular-based exercise is an important oxygen-based strategy, right? But for the purposes of the health matrix, I want you to think of the following, okay? And that is this, principle number 5, exploratory movement and development. Again, the question is why. So let's look at some examples so we can really really nail this down. You see, if you just do a random bunch of exercises, whether strength or aerobic, yeah, undoubtedly you're going to get some development, right? If you're doing cardiovascular exercises, you're going to develop aerobic strength and all the muscle, joint, tendon, ligament and cardiovascular benefits, that is synonymous with them, right? If you go to the gym and start lifting weights, yes, you'll develop strength, develop strength that wouldn't be there if you didn't do them. But my point really here is to become more conscious. You see, here's the thing. If you look at children in the playground, look at what they do, yeah? Running around, climbing, jumping, throwing. And if you look at that versus an old age pensioner, yeah, going to pick up their pension check, dragging themselves up the high street, just keep flicking between those two images, yeah? Or think about kids on a playing field, throwing a frisbee, running after the frisbee, jumping up, catching it, or playing football, and those kinds of things, versus an old age pensioner, okay, sitting in a chair, watching hours and hours of endless TV. Now, the point I'm making here is this: somewhere between youth and youth and vitality and old age, something is lost, and the thing that is lost isn't it's basically movement. It's not fitness or isolated strength, but it's movement. Now, obviously they're connected, but let's go back in time for a moment and look at the life of a baby, because it's here where you'll really make the biggest leap in your understanding. Okay. Babies are stimulated by curiosity. And by the way, this is the key, it's the curiosity. They start off stationary, yeah? But due to natural curiosity, you can find them moving their head around and exploring, right? Then, through curiosity, they explore rolling over and looking around. Yeah? Then again, through curiosity, they start to crawl and explore even more, and as their hips begin to develop strength and their shoulders develop strength, and, all of this mobility begins to develop, all of this is happening unconsciously, all of this joint mobility, all of this stabilisation, all of this flexibility, without them even thinking about it. Then they learn to balance on two legs, and then they explore the idea of standing stationary. And then eventually they walk, okay, and then they run, and then they get into more, exploring more advanced movements, such as jumping up and down on the bed, or climbing or balancing and that kind of thing. Now, if they're lucky, they spend the rest of their lives engaged in sports and activities as they climb and swing and balance, and thus keep their movement patterns alive. Now, if they're unlucky, they'll sit at a desk all day, then they'll sit in the car as they drive home, then they'll sit down for dinner, and then they'll stay seated down whilst they watch TV. Plain and simple, people have lost their ability to move and lost their ability to explore, or at least forgotten it. Okay, in doing so, develop something called sensory amnesia. Okay, their body has literally forgotten what it learned as a baby, and connections have been lost, and development has basically gone backwards. So remember, I said the goal of the anti-aging health matrix was, was to be marching towards our 100th birthday. Okay, not waiting for it to happen, as we degenerate in an old people's home. Now, if this image scares you, then that's good. Okay, there's nothing like a nice little, wake-up call. And you might be thinking, right, time to renew my gym membership, which may not be a bad idea. But then again, depending on how long you've been deficient in movement, you might end up skipping a few developmental phases and then end up just getting an injury as you move too far, too fast. Now, how do I know? Because I've done it. I've done it loads of times. Now, the idea behind this section in the course is to reconnect our entire body to states of curiosity and exploration as we learn more about our movement potential in and around our environment, without worrying about getting bigger or stronger or worrying about what people think. The key is movement, and the key is exploration. Strength and development comes later as we reconnect to our kind of more primal self and reawaken our functions. Now, if you embrace this shift in mindset, and you're anything like my movement coach, who by the way is almost 60, yeah, he doesn't look a day older than 40. He teaches salsa dancing, he travels the world giving lectures to physios, chiropractors, Pilates trainers, etc. He sees private clients and is constantly learning and developing himself. Well, with this kind of mindset, then you'll find yourself getting younger by day, day by day, or certainly, you'll certainly feel like you are. So here's the thing. You can be attempting to do all these, wonderful things, with oxygen strategies and, nutritional strategies and all these other things. But if your body isn't moving, then you'll be missing out on one of the most important aspects of health. In fact, you know, for all intents and purposes, movement equals life. And just as a little example of where we go inside the courses, we look at real basic movement patterns like the flat-footed squat that you see toddlers do all the time when they're sitting in their nappy, you know, and how that can be used as a gateway into different crawl patterns, and how those crawl patterns can be the starting point to working towards more complex balancing skills, and then onto different climbing skills and swinging skills. And by the way, none of this is super advanced, okay? But it is super strategic, and you will get results rapidly. And then if you want to take your skills to a more advanced arena, I'll share with you the best role models that I've found, depending on what fascinates you, and what you fancy getting into next. Let's not forget the main learning here. Put one part of somebody's body in a plaster cast and only that area deteriorates. So my question to you is, how many areas of your body have deteriorated because you haven't even been using them, not even minimally? You know, could you do what a baby does right now? Could you simply crawl around, then roll over and do it effortlessly with no conscious thought? If not, fear not, okay? We'll be covering all of this and more in an effort to prevent what I call the OAP syndrome. That is, a body that has lost its connection to its movement potential. My suspicion, once we regain some of your lost movement potential, you'll be feeling so good and alive again that you'll automatically be drawn to want to, to further explore and further develop these areas. Everything we do together, okay, will awaken your body, reforge the connections that you made as a child, and fill in any gaps that you need, okay, to then take your development to the next level. However, if you just want to bring yourself back to life and then maintain these movement connections, that's also fine as well, as long as you remain curious about your body and you're willing to explore. The mindset and the reconnection to your youth is really what we're after here, and the avoidance of the OAP syndrome. So let's recap so far. The fastest way to kill someone, okay, take away their oxygen supply. So step number 1 of the anti-aging health matrix in tier number 1 is ensure you are a master of utilising the power of active oxygen to your advantage. Next is hydration, avoiding toxicity and maximising your hydration potential, because as you do, you invite a higher level of physiological function. Next, take away someone's food supply and you starve them. But we said that since food appears to be the most confusing subject right now, we're going to come back to that shortly. Then there is exploratory movement and development. Without it, you could end up, like most people do in their 60s, 70s and 80s and beyond, and it's not an inspiring place to be. And it's the sophistication of all of these strategies, by the way, where the true power can be found. Okay? The next one isn't so much about the fastest way to kill someone, but the fastest way to create stress in someone's system. And as you know, with stress comes disorder and potentially disease. So I call this principle number 5, circadian biology. And in a nutshell, is about how, basically how life is a series of cycles. So we've got the cycle of day and the cycle of day and night. Okay? We've got the cycle of the seasons. We've got cycles of activity and cycles of rest. We've got cycles of yin and we've got cycles of yang. We've got cycles of energy being expended, which is yang, and cycles of energy being absorbed, which is yin. Cycles of information being assimilated, which is learning, and cycles of information being passed on, such as teaching. So the list goes on. Again, we must look at why circadian biology is such an important principle. So let's look at an example. If you really want to stress someone, put them on the night shift. Simple as that. Or don't allow them to sleep and rejuvenate. With good sleep comes superior health and a superior mind and superior thinking and superior decision making. With a lack of sleep comes all the opposites: poor health, a poorly functioning brain, poor thinking and poor decision making. So if you look at the rise in sleeping medications and sleeping aids, it highlights how people are slowly allowing their health to deteriorate without realising the importance of a good night's sleep, which amongst other things impacts the anabolic and catabolic balances in the body, another important cycle. Ultimately, if any of these cycles are disrupted, then it can stress us and cause an immediate effect on our health. Okay? A common sense example is people taking stimulants to stay awake, okay, and then a sedative to go to sleep without any concerns for the consequences. That's why I keep harping on about the top 10 killers. Remember, we want to be marching towards our 100th birthday with certainty, not having to worry about dealing with common diseases and disorders. Sleep patterns, if you didn't know, are erratic in the elderly. And if we can maintain our circadian biology long into old age, we are one step closer towards marching towards our 100th birthday. We'll also be looking into the importance of different wavelengths of light. obviously the importance of daylight and the impact of vitamin D and vitamin D's impact on overall health. But we'll also be looking at far infrared rays and their impact on clearing your body of toxicity, in this ridiculously toxic world that we live in. But more importantly, we'll be looking at how to weave all of this information into a powerful daily, weekly and monthly strategy that guarantees real impact on your health. And the good news, I can tell you right now, is that inside the course I give you a checklist. Okay? That will allow you to quickly assess how well you're doing at all of this. And remember, we haven't even finished the principles in tier number 1 yet, or even looked at tier number 2 or tier number 3. So get the understandings of the cycles right, and it will have a profound impact on your health and keep you at your best. In fact, learning to think in terms of cycles and beginning to understand more about the big picture of nature will certainly allow you to reconnect more to your own health. So we're almost there. Next is principle number 6. And although it's impossible, to class one principle in the top tier of the anti-aging health matrix as more important than any other, in the world we live in right now, nobody gives enough respect to what I'm about to tell you. So you ready? Here we go. If you didn't know, the Earth has a magnetic pulse, also known as the Schumann resonance, that resonates at exactly the same frequency as our brain, okay, when it's in the alpha state. Now, the alpha state is synonymous with many things: creativity, performance, learning states and flow states. But more importantly, the Schumann resonance is synonymous with the absence of stress. So by reconnecting to these earth frequencies and the Schumann resonance, we immediately support our body in returning to its ideal harmonious state. But let's explore this a little further. When shielded from the earth's frequencies, i.e., so imagine being in a box which keeps out the important earth's frequencies, an interesting phenomena begins to occur. People begin to feel a dramatic increase in stress, a dramatic increase in emotional instability, increases in brain states such as depression, and physical manifestations such as headaches. However, when a magnetic pulse generator is placed inside such a shielded environment, emitting a Schumann resonance, of frequencies of exactly 7.83 Hertz, symptoms and stress dissipate rapidly. Now, this may be a little confusing for you if you're not familiar with any of the research. So just think of it like this: we are influenced positively by the Earth's magnetic field. Now, when we are disconnected from it, our system begins to malfunction. Simple? We need the Earth and its frequencies as much as the other principles in tier 1 of the anti-aging health matrix, for the very best of health. So let's take this to the extreme. What happens if you take man out of the Earth's atmosphere and subject them to space travel? Well, the body begins to degenerate very rapidly, so fast that NASA have now installed devices into their craft and spacesuits that allow astronauts to be exposed to PEMF, that's pulsed electromagnetic fields, or PEMF for short. So what's this got to do with you? Okay, are you a space person? Are you a spaceman or a spacewoman? Well, here's the thing: people are spending less and less time in nature and more time at home or at work, bombarded by other frequencies that aren't as health-giving as the frequencies that the Earth gives off, such as Wi-Fi, mobile phones, mobile phone towers, cordless telephones, computers, laptops, tablets. And if you really think that none of these are having an impact on your body, then I suggest you do more research. It's this combination of unhealthy, unnatural frequencies that didn't exist a few decades ago. Then you combine that with low oxygen states, poor hydration, poor nutrition, upset circadian biology, poor sleep habits, and it's no wonder 1 in 2 people are dying from heart disease and cancer. Thankfully, even though there's been a rise in technology that can stress the body and cause harm, there's also been a variety of technologies that can help restore balance again if you still find yourself having to, maintain your way of life in the 21st century, namely working indoors, surrounded by all these different frequencies that don't support life. Now, my favourite device is a pulsated, a pulsed electromagnetic frequency device. A regular use of PEMF can harmonise your subtle energies and have far-reaching health and protective effects on you and your body. And we discuss these in detail throughout the course. But there is a simple way to, to look at all this, and ask the question: why do people leave it all behind twice a year and venture off on holiday? You know, natural environments with fresh air, with sunshine, and a connection to the earth, you know, when you're swimming or walking on the beach, you know, or walking out in nature, allow the body to self-heal, to self-regulate and self-regenerate. So whether it's the coast, you know, or the wilderness, people instinctively know that getting away from it all is healthy. Now some people are smarter, you know, than that, and they come and live in these environments, and you know what, I think if it wasn't for the fact that my kids live just around the corner, I would probably do the same. So with a PEMF device, you can maintain that self-healing, that self-regulatory and self-regeneration on a daily basis, along with all the other principles discussed so far. Remember, my goal for the Anti-Aging Health Matrix is daily, weekly and monthly practices to get you on track and to keep you on track. So I've put together a little summary here of what a good pulsed electromagnetic frequency device like the one I use can do. So number one, it improves oxygen uptake, yeah? A key player in the Anti-Aging Health Matrix. Number two, it improves hydration at a cellular level, okay? Again, another important thing in the Anti-Aging Health Matrix. Number three, it improves nutrient uptake and transportation as well as elimination of toxins by a process called electroporation, which, by the way, helps support pH dynamics in the body and helps reduce acidity and promote more of a balanced alkaline environment and a surplus of electrons. Number five, it increases ATP production in the mitochondria, which is our primary energy molecule. Number six, it helps recharge every single one of your 75 to 100 trillion cells by affecting TMP. That's something called transmembrane potential, and it's one of the primary ways energy is stored at the cellular level. Now, we've mentioned Dr. Otto Warburg before, right, regarding oxygen, but in this instance he found that healthy cells have a measurable voltage of 70 to 100 millivolts. Now, with heart cells having the highest in the region of 90 to 100 millivolts. Now think about this. Heart cells have got the highest charge, right? Between 90 and 100 millivolts. Cancer cells have been shown to be, have a diminished charge between 15 and 20 millivolts. And guess what you never hear of? Heart cancer. Now, what does this mean? Does this mean that PEMF, is the cure for cancer? No, there is no cure for anything. As we've said before, there is just self-healing, self-regulation and self-regeneration. If we're smart enough to create the right environment for ourselves. Now, if we go over each of these points, oxygen, hydration, nutrient uptake and detoxification, you can see why a PEMF device on its own may be highly beneficial. But with the Anti-Aging Health Matrix and maximising each of these principles, you're creating an approach which is basically unstoppable. The power is, and always has been, in the synergy of the principles. Now, during the course, we go into detail about, about PEMF and other technology that can shield you from the perils of some of the more recent technological advances that, for the most part, could end up assisting the top 10 killers in striking you down. Not directly, but by silently stressing the body and keeping it in that stress state long enough for problems to occur. Stress is something that doesn't serve you, and especially over long periods of time. And research has highlighted over and over again that stress is linked to every disease of modern civilization. But with education and strategy, we can learn to coexist with it and remain shielded, and that's what this section is about. So principle number six is pulsed electromagnetic frequencies and other shielding technologies that allow us to live in this artificial environment that is very different to what the world was even only a few decades ago. Finally, before we come back to point number three, is one of the most important health principles of all. And it was a tricky one to name at first. Originally I wanted to call it the mind, because if you get your mind right, you can overcome any challenge, any obstacle and succeed with your health beyond your wildest dreams. But then I realised it's a lot more than that. It also encompasses the emotions, because positive emotions such as laughter, good humour and joy can have a significant effect on your health. But then it also encompasses relationships, like relationships with your loved ones, relationships with your friends, relationships with your pets, and relationships with the environment around you. And since we're on the subject of health here, your relationship with your coach or your therapist or your consultant, or your teacher. So principle number 7 I call connection. Connection to your mind, connection to your emotions, connection to your family, connection to your friends, connection to your loved ones, even connection to places, and definitely connection to the earth, as we've already touched on. In fact, connection to everything around you. This principle also brings in the wisdom from other healers, because think of what happens when you get a massage, for example. You're getting direct connection to your therapist. So who you choose as your therapist will have an important impact on your health. This is obviously a very deep principle, wide principle. There's a lot to cover here. However, there are definitely some important things to consider. You may or may not have heard of the story of Dr. Norman Cousins, author of Anatomy of an Illness, who essentially came off all drugs and used high dosage vitamin C along with watching comedies, and for all intents and purposes laughed his way back to health after having been given a 1 in 500 chance of surviving his condition, ankylosing spondylitis. Now on page 184 of Aggressive Health, I write this: did you know that if an older person loses their spouse, they are 10 times more likely to die within a year than if their spouse were to remain alive? Did you also know that when a person gets divorced, their chance of becoming ill over the course of the next year rises dramatically by 1,200%, 1,200%. Those who are chronically stressed have a higher chance, or have higher chances of mortality and illness. Now, this information may not surprise some people, but at least it highlights the importance of taking responsibility and doing everything in your power to maintain health and wellness. In this case, start appreciating your partner and or circle of friends and pets. They are as important to your health as your next meal. So the importance of community, loved ones, friends and connection, healers and therapists, all of this highlights emotions that we want more of. Okay, there's not a person on the planet who doesn't want more love, more joy, more empowerment, more freedom, more appreciation, more passion in their life, more enthusiasm, more eagerness, more happiness, more positive expectation. What about things like optimism or hopefulness, contentment, more peace, more tranquility, more relaxation, more creativity, more flow, and less things like boredom, pessimism, frustration, irritation, impatience, overwhelm, disappointment, doubt, worry and blame, discouragement, anger, revenge, hatred, rage, jealousy, insecurity, guilt, unworthiness, grief, fear, depression, despair, and powerlessness. It's a long old list, right? And yes, many of the not so empowering emotions are sometimes the gateway to the more empowering ones, as we challenge and struggle with life. But on the whole, it's much easier to feel good in general when your body is working at its best. So get your energy right, take full responsibility for your health first, then you begin to use what you have to help others. If you can connect to those around you and use your energy and enthusiasm to embellish their lives, tradition after tradition tells the same story, that you will be rewarded. The only problem is if your energy is low, okay, and you run down, and you know how easy it is to have nothing to give, then that's where all the preceding principles come into play, because they will give you that powerful foundation to allow you to live an energetic, inspired life, and with that you've got more to give. So this connection principle also deals with the mind and will get you thinking about your beliefs, your values, your rules and your state of mind, and how they can impact your ability to stay on track when it comes to marching towards your 100th birthday. And let's be clear here, everything I teach in the Anti-Aging Health Matrix is built on the premise that you go first. Okay, when you go first and build some momentum, people will automatically want to follow. Maybe not initially. I remember years ago getting into some of these principles, and some of my friends, they really couldn't care less. But when they started to experience health-based issues and they weren't happy with how they were feeling and what they looked like in the mirror, they looked at me and made statements like, you don't look any different than you did 10 years ago. Then their interest begins to increase, with regards to what I teach, asking questions like, well, Mike, what do you do? Which really, if you think about it, translates to, what can I do to get the same results as you? And to save me answering that question over and over again, okay, wasting the most valuable resource of all, which is time, now you can see another reason why I've put together this 4-part series. Think of it like this. Number 1, take care of yourself first and be very selfish about it. Now number 2, once you've got that mastered, help those around you if they ask. And then number 3, then you can look at the bigger picture and start helping the planet. Now you're already doing this by making more intelligent decisions, because obviously as you get healthier, the planet gets healthier. Remember, going back to principle number 1, okay, here we are, in need of active oxygen in our lives, and yet we're cutting down more and more trees, pollution is everywhere, and yet there are proven oxygen-based strategies that can oxidize harmful polluting chemicals, in the environment, and thus basically heal the planet. The problem is that when they're used on a grander scale, than just on yourself, they impact the profits of large corporations, and where there is money and greed, there is misinformation, unhelpful media campaigns, and more confusion. Now, I'm all about getting to the heart of the matter because I value my life and I want you to value your life. And basically it all happens as you enter the health matrix. Now, finally, let's get back to principle number 3, the one that we left out. So, let's get back to the fastest way to kill someone, yeah? Cut off their air supply, cut off their water supply, dehydrate them, and then cut off their food supply and starve them. So principle number 3 is obviously the importance of food. But this is where we exit tier number 1 and we enter into tier number 2. So even though food, is number 3 in tier number 1 because it's so important to health, we expand upon it significantly, and give it its own tier. Now, as you know, diet is probably, for some, the most confusing element of health. What to eat, when to eat it, how much to eat, when not to eat, and when to go on a fast for a day or so, or longer. How often to fast, intermittent fasting, raw food nutrition, the paleo approaches, the Atkins diet, metabolic typing diet, macrobiotic diet. The list of diets and tweaks to best-selling approaches will go on forever, and once we accept that, that's fine. As important as foods, are to prevent starvation and thus death, it needs to be expanded upon and put in its rightful place. And that is where we're headed in video number 3. I promise you'll learn things in tier number 2, by the way, that will seem obvious, okay? But some will seem, controversial, and some you will never have heard of, okay? But even if you have heard of them, you may not be putting them into your day-to-day routine, which is really where it counts, i.e. where the rubber hits the road. So let's have a little recap. What is the anti-aging health matrix? It's a 3-tiered approach with the most important principles of health in tier number 1. So once again, let's recap. What are the big 7 in tier number 1? Okay, so number 1, you've got oxygen-based strategies to increase activated oxygen in your body. Number 2, you've got hydration-based strategies to avoid dehydrated states and support our 80% water-based bodies. Number 3, we've got food, the gateway to tier number 2, which is coming in the next video. And then we've got movement. As we've said, there's a big disconnect between children and old age pensioners. We want to reconnect so we can stay as youthful with our movement as long as possible. Number 5, circadian biology and the importance of cycles of life, especially with regards to reducing stress, increasing hormonal integrity and harmonising the wake-sleep cycle. Number 6, the Earth's magnetic charge and the Schumann frequencies and technology that can simulate these fields, such as pulsed electromagnetic field therapy and other shielding health technologies. Number 7, connection, and the importance of how you connect with your mind, how you connect with your emotions, how you connect with your relationships, how you connect with your spirit, and ultimately how you connect with everything around you. So based on the stats, of the top 10 killers, namely 1 in 2 people are dying of heart disease, 1 in 3 people of cancer, and then the combined chances of dementia, diabetes, immune system malfunction, and kidney malfunction, we need to make sure we're using the anti-aging health matrix to our advantage. The question is how, okay? That's the key question. But don't jump the gun here. Yes, you know more now than most people, maybe even more than some practitioners, but you don't know the intricacies of tier number 2, okay, and tier number 3 yet. Yes, you could just simply take the principles in tier number 1, investigate them to the full, exploit every health loophole that exists, and weave them into your day-to-day routine. And as far as I'm concerned, give yourself a great chance, to march towards your 100th birthday with certainty. But I want you to experience more than just a great chance. I want you to see how the anti-aging health matrix is your complete blueprint and something you can revisit time and time again to continue to sharpen your daily habits to the point where you'll be running rings around your great-grandchildren, okay? That's the kind of imagery I want you to have. And even if it doesn't, materialise, it's certainly a lot more compelling than, simply watching your life drift by, day by day aimlessly. So, with that, remember I've got something critical to show you in video number 4 regarding the top 10 killers, and I'll also be walking you through tier number 2, okay, and tier number 3 as we dive deeper into the details of the health matrix. Basically building upon your understanding as I reveal, all of this at once for the very first time. So if this video sparked your interest, and has got you reshuffling your health priorities, or at least got you thinking more clearly about what is, what's important and what is maybe not as important as you once thought, then let me know in the comment section below. And I'll see you on the next video where we can cover the secrets of tier number 2 of the anti-aging health matrix.